Hello, I'm recording this short video right now to address the different revision numbers that come out with the Scuttle parts. And we can start with the major assembly changes for the whole robot. You find these parts, actually the assembly on GrabCAD, and you'll find that the first decimal was renamed. So like going from version 1 to version 2 before there's any decimals, that's representing a major change, and it really means that the robot's construction changed significantly. So this happens very infrequently, as indicated here. And the formats that are released is the solid assembly from SolidWorks, including all the solid parts, and also a step assembly, which is better for navigating inside the 3D model on the web browser. And it's also offers compatibility with all the other CAD programs. As for the minor changes in the robot assembly, this would mean that there were several small improvements to the modeling, but no real change in the design function overall. So we're going from something like 2.1 to 2.2. The latest that's released currently is 2.2 or 2.3. And when you click on there, I always indicate in the description that there's a newer release. So 2.2 is the latest, and if it becomes outdated, then there will be a message here that says there is a newer version. For the major change in the models for 3D printing, we released the parts on the GitHub, just as shown right here. And the file type is going to be an STL. And the major change is like version 1 point something to version 2. And this is an example of an assembly that's gone from version 1 to version 2. And the parts inside of that assembly will not be compatible with one another. So obviously this cover will not fit on the newer battery pack design. And it's not required absolutely that you upgrade, but you might want to upgrade if you see a performance improvement. When we come to changes that are minor changes for the CAD models, then you get a change on the version number after the decimal place. So we go from, for example, this is version 2.2, this is 2.1, and the only change for this part was that the region that used to be flat was changed to be curved, and that improved the springiness and how tightly this thing fits onto the battery pack. But because they're compatible, the minor version changes, you don't have to print them necessarily. You could just take a look. And the type of file, again, will be an STL. You'll find it here in the 3D printing part of the GitHub. And we will actually overwrite or delete the older one. If you need access to the older one, actually you can go into the history and you can find all of those. But we won't continue to make them available. For changes in off-the-shelf parts like this one, we don't release the changes very frequently. And an example might be that when we first made the assembly, we downloaded a generic CAD model and placed it with our parts. And then later down the line, we found time to actually measure our real hardware, make our own custom model that reflects the true hardware, and then add that into the sub-assembly of the Scuttle. And usually we collect those changes as we go and then release them together when we release a minor Scuttle model change. So when we go from Scuttle 2.1 to 2.2, it may include several small changes for the off-the-shelf parts. Okay, last thing is when we create a new sub-assembly that I would call major because it's not compatible with other parts previously. This camera bracket is a sub-assembly that you could consider that, and also this other camera bracket that is compatible with a different camera model. That's what we're considering in this bottom row here. And the parts will usually be released on GrabCAD in their own subassembly, and they might have a totally new part number. And if we don't consider it standard, then it will remain standing alone in its own subassembly. We'll try to include links so you could find it as an accessory. However, if we do make it a standard part of the robot, then we are also obligated to add the parts to the bill of materials and give further instructions, and also update the software so that the main Scuttle software will be running the new assembly.